Good afternoon again. So we are moving to the next session on digitalization. So after having heard what industry and research institutes are doing in terms of digitalization, the last part of the afternoon session is really to bridge both worlds. So we'll hear first about what's happening in EASA in terms of digitalization with Ugo and Pierluca, colleagues who will introduce themselves. This gives me an opportunity to inform you that all the detailed CVs of the speakers are on the EASA website. So we didn't introduce them in detail to save a bit of time, but if you are interested in the background of the speakers, which is usually very impressive, you can go on the page of the EASA website about this event and you have the details of their background. So we'll first hear the two colleagues, Pierluca and Ugo, talking about what is done in CT in terms of digitalization. And then Olivier Genome from Airbus Helicopters will walk us through the work of AG002. It sounds a bit mysterious from here, but it will be very clear in a few minutes. So first, we give the floor to Ugo.
So I'm here to talk to you about the tool that EASA is using for exchanging information on project certification. And as many of you know, we are using CEPIAC, which means a shared platform for initial airworthiness certification. And it started by being a mere SharePoint platform where documents were uploaded and the PCMs and the experts could view the documents and could provide some comments there. Since then, we have evolved the tool to contain much more information. So we have included there currently the certification and review item cycle. We have the internal consultation process for ESF, deviation, cert memos, and special conditions. So this is the pre-stage before we launch the public consultation. So we have a common place where everybody can go and see what is the actual information. There are no more separate files running around. So we have also a repository for all internal procedures and work instructions. So this is available for internal and for our colleagues that work with us on the NAAs. We have, on every project, we have the capability for the PCM and for the experts to provide the performance feedback as well as a statement of satisfaction. This is one of the important aspects that is used on calculating the DOA performance. We have a place as well to support the outsourcing of tasks. When EASA uses the NAAs, we have the outsourcing. So now through CEPIAC, we have a common place to share this information. We have some basic project management functionalities, as they were explained this morning by my colleague Pietro. And we have as well a repository for training material, guidance, and templates. So in CEPIAC, on the main page, you will find CEPIAC training. This is a training done through short videos. It's called training, but you can use it as a guidance the same way as most of us do now. If you have any question, you go to YouTube and you try to find a video to explain you how to do it. So that's the basic of this training. You don't need to go through all of it. You can just select what you need. We also have a document-based one with a quick reference handbook for CEPIAC that has got some infographics that show you what you have there, and as well what is the metadata that we are using, and as well as some XML schema that we are using to update 3 lists that we have on each project on CEPIAC. One is for the documents to be reviewed, the other one is for the tests and inspections, and the other one is the compliance checklist. All of these 3 lists enable data to be uploaded through an XML, and we provide the schema on how this can be done. So the way that we have developed CEPIAC, we try to apply an agile framework. So the development is done in small, iterative and processes that we introduce periodically. We have a small team that we consult on how to see what is the next phase of development. We request afterwards management agreement on how to proceed. So we have a roadmap on what needs to be developed. And the upgrades are not standalone. They build on top of each other. So each one of them provides an additional capability. So we created the lists, then we created the XML to update the lists. We have capability to do discussions on the documents. Now we have the capability as well to extract data, and then the user experience will tell us if the process that we have created can be updated or can be improved. So this happens in most of the cases. So stage 1 is the basic functionality. Stage 2, we upgrade the functionality, and on stage 3, we perfect the functionality. So the focus not only on functionality, but on metadata, because we want to retrieve the data. Even if it's a Word or a PDF, it has metadata, and that metadata is important so that we can extract that information and we can create a more agile dashboard for our experts and for our PCMs, because what is important to know is that we need to have the right information at the right time for the right person. So that's what we are trying to do right now. So, and to do that, we do not have a specific tool that we are aiming to be the holy grail that will do everything. We are using an ecosystem of tools. So we have, as I explained to you, we have SEPIAC, which is SharePoint, a little bit customized. We have the XML that can interface with SEPIAC to receive data. We have data from SAP. We have an intermediate layer, which is a SQL database. So on this SQL database, we are extracting daily data from the libraries on SEPIAC, and then we use Power BI, which again is a standard off-the-shelf tool from Microsoft, where we combine all of this data and we do a report so we can automatically check if there were changes, in what projects there were changes on the last day, on the last 30 days. We can combine all of the tasks that have been inserted into SEPIAC. We unpivot the tasks and we create Gantt charts to create views. We calculate for all of the projects that have data, and we can see each person availability, which means how much they are booked on for all of the projects. So we are able to foresee on the future, but the future for us is not too far away future. It's not a future of 6 months or 1 year. We are aiming of having 2 to 3 months maximum visibility on the tasks and how much we can predict the level of capacity of an expert. So, like I mentioned, so Power BI defined, and then what is important that is we should have a defined and agreed core vocabulary to facilitate data transfer. There are several aspects that we can agree with the industry, but we should develop really a common way of talking with each other, like a dictionary. There are terms that are from EASA, so the definition, what is a panel, what is a discipline, what is the MOC, so those are terms that we are from EASA, but there are many others that we should agree on how we can transfer information between us. And that's it from my side. So SEPIAC will continue to evolve on the next months, years. We provide not only the training on that's available on SEPIAC, but if any organization requires a specific training, we are more than willing to provide a specific session to address your issues or to provide you additional training on how to do the functionalities. And now I'll pass to my colleague, Pierluca.
Thank you, Hugo. Maybe before Pierluca takes the floor, by show of hand, which one of you have already used SEPIAC so that we have an idea? Okay, kind of half of the participants. So it gives an idea of how popular the tool has been so far. So thanks, Hugo. So the next presentation is going to be from Pierluca, and he's going to tell you what's coming in terms of SEPIAC evolution.
Thanks, thanks, Gregory. Thanks, Hugo. Good evening, everybody. So yes, until now we have seen what is in place now. My turn is to give you a bit of more the outlook. But before going there, I would like to introduce myself. I am Pierluca Satriano, and I am the head of the department for safety, intelligence, and performance, and which is a role that is not directly related at the moment with SEPIAC, but this role was recently taken, and until September I was heavily involved into the digitalization of the certification platform, and in this case, SEPIAC. So my goal today is to go in the more fascinating part that is what's ahead of us. With that, the visionary part is fascinating, but also it requires commitment and patience. Many of you have mentioned the word digitalization. Well, and some of you said, yes, it can mean anything and nothing. It means many things. And we will see today that for us also means commitment and patience, because we need to go step by step. It's a journey. And we will show today what are the pillars on which we intend to evolve our platform, which does not come alone as an evolution of the platform, but it goes also with the fact that we need to be ready to cater for the evolution, or to be underpinned by this evolution with an adjustment and adaptation of the process, the certification process, and of the regulatory environment. Okay? So, what is the visionary part? This is on purpose put in order of achievability and also in terms of timelines. This was presented this morning by Pietro Piliero on what is the process that is behind, underpinned by the evolution of this of our SEPIAC. Hugo also has highlighted that we have the SEPIAC is an IT platform that is able to manage documents. Now, it also caters for basic project management functionalities, but it means that what we need to do, the next step, is to go from a document management system plus, allow me to say that, to a project management tool. There are a lot already on the market, but we need to have something bespoke, something that helps us to run our process the way we want. Also, this morning you talked about workforce management. This was also touched upon in some of the question and answers. Well, we need to move from a repository of workload, because now SEPIAC is able to store and put the prediction on the estimated workload in the different technical domains. But before we get to the point where we have a fully fledged workforce management system, we need to make some adaptations. We need to evolve a bit. And also to adjust part of our processes. The more we progress, the more we go into the area that is a bit more entangled, more complicated, because not impossible, but which requires, again, the convergence of IT platform, process, and regulatory environment. We need to go from a standalone application to an interoperable platform. Standalone means that SEPIAC at the moment is able to do the so-called asynchronous connection with other platforms. So there is the possibility to exchange files. But it's not possible to go for the machine-to-machine, which is more the synchronous collaborative approach to exchange data. The last bit is, well, SEPIAC is managing documents, which are, yes, aggregation of data, but per se, the basic unit, the atomic element is the document. We need to move from a document management system to data management system. This was touched upon in a number of presentations, and I'm expecting some questions there. Because now, managing a document, and this will also be discussed, I think, proposed by our colleagues from Leonardo Helicopters, Airbus Helicopters, sorry. That we need to make sure that a certification basis or a certification program is something that has a structure that can be chopped in slices, but slices that are standardized. Okay? Now we go into more detail on the different points. So project management, this is standard practice. We need to have the possibility to harmonize planning, and this has to be done jointly or in a coordinated fashion between EASA and the applicant. It has also to be collaborative monitoring of the schedule. What does it mean? It means that we plan something that is feasible by the applicant and by EASA, and we monitor the achievement of that. The resource monitoring, so the way the resources are allocated, of course, is a business of the EASA and of the applicant separately, because we need to manage our workforce in a way that is more local. Why do we do that? Because at the end of the day, what we want to reach is the predictability of the outcome. And you can see there that we are entering into another territory. Because from the project management, the more we go down to this list, we go into the area of the service management. And we have already said many times that it takes two to tango. Why? Because running an application is not the responsibility only of the applicant. Running an application is not only responsibility of EASA. We need to go into something where there is predictability of the engagement of the different parties and the reliability of the commitments. Workforce management. So from a repository of workforce of workload to workforce management. We need to put right expert, right place, right time. With the fact that we need to pay attention that for certification, the technical domains have a very specific granularity. So we cannot put just an hydromechanical expert. We need to see whether it is a flight control system, doors, landing gears. So we need to make sure that we are putting the right expert for that task. And this adds a complication to our needs because doing the resource leveling, so making sure that we have enough capacity of that competency, well, this requires that we have full control on a very granular set of sub-technical domains. And this, altogether, and making also an extrapolation when it comes to short-term assignment, we can also do tailored staffing plans because in a time where we are really tight on the way we can hire the resources, we need really to select our bullets. We need really to select the way we hire and make sure that we are selecting the sub-element of a specific technical domain. The more we go further, the more the things get, as I said, a bit more entangled. Interoperability. So the ability to make some IT platforms to communicate. Okay? Now, this is subject to the digitalization strategy, and it takes two to tango. We cannot have a digitalization strategy of EASA, which is different from the digitalization of the applicants. And we need also to accept that there are different paces. There was a question, or a couple of questions here. Now, we have to accept that we have different paces of the different actors here. Because there are feasibility constraints. One is the budget. Well, as EASA, we have a certain limitation on what we can invest. Another one is the language, so the protocols. And here we are entering into very more technical aspects. So what is the type or the architecture, the hierarchy of the documents that you intend to submit? What is the protocol? So what is the language that you intend to use when you go for machine to machine? And last but not least, and this was touched upon today many times, security. Security is something that we cannot underestimate. In particular, the more we go towards the synchronous communication, so the more we go towards the fully fledged machine to machine. And the security is something that is tricky because the minimum security is the one that will set the pace, and the minimum level acceptable by EASA or by the applicant is the one that has to be kept as a minimum level for the entire chain of value. And this is tricky because it's not always the risk appetite of the different organizations, the different actors, is different, and we need to cater for all of them. So pay attention to security. Now, the last bit is constraints. In fact, some colleagues also highlighted that it's not really constraints, it's principles, because we are based on those principles. But they turn into constraints because when we procure software, for instance, well, we need to make sure that those principles are respected. For instance, we have proportionality. We need to make sure that, as said, we are not catering for a level of security that is not achievable by small, medium enterprises, for instance. Transparency. We need to make sure that the there is predictability on what you expect from the engagement with EASA. A level playing field. We need to make sure that everybody can apply, but also that we procure software or we develop software that is respecting the level playing field of the different economic actors. This is the last bit, and this is a sort of a wrapper, in fact, of many questions and discussions that were already made. So digitalization is something that is a journey, is something that is incremental, and this is, for us, at the moment, the last bit, the one that would require, for us, most of our engagement, not only from the side of the IT developments, but also from the side of the business and from the side of the regulatory environment. And it is subject, of course, to the digitalization strategy of the EASA and applicant. Whereas for applicant, we intended the fully fledged population of the actors that have an interest in interacting with our digital platform. We need to learn on how to standardize the architecture of the documents. One thing is the certification basis submitted by Airbus Helicopter. Something is different from, I don't know, Tecnam or another company. We need to make sure that we are able to ingest, we are able to protect, process documents that have a standardized architecture. And also data architecture, because the more we go towards data, we need to make sure that the data are set up in a way that are understandable by the different machines. Again, protocols and data structure. Last but not least, when we have the document, we receive a document, and it is clear that it's property of the ones that submit the document. Okay? When you go for data, well, the situation gets a bit more blurred because it's a workflow, and we need to understand who is the owner of the data, who is the controller of the data, and who is the processor of the data, because there are implications there. Again, it is very much linked with the security, where we intend for security also the ability to protect confidentiality, integrity, and availability of our information asset. Last but not least, we cannot go for, it was mentioned, the model-based certification. Well, to go there, we need to adjust our process. We need also to work on the regulatory framework, and it takes time. So I would conclude with just the takeaway that I would like to leave is that I already said that digitalization is a journey. But we need to be patient and consistent, and it's a matter of making the steps one after the other based on the capability of a specific organization. And the last point is we need to find a good compromise, because one thing is businessizing the IT, so injecting business into IT. Another thing is digitalizing the business. Well, the two things alone will not work. We need to make sure that we are able to put ourselves in between and make sure that, as already was said, digitalization caters for our needs. Thank you.
So thank you, Pierluca. I invite you to already ask your questions in Slido to Hugo and Pierluca, and we'll take them together with the questions on Olivier's presentation. So Olivier, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Grégory. Thank you, Pierluca, for this insight on EASA view on digitalization. I have now the difficult task to make the last presentation of the day, so I hope you still have a little bit of energy. I hope that you will be as excited as me by the subject, and in any case, I will try to motivate you to be part of this transformation project aiming at building tomorrow's certification digital environment. So my name is Olivier Genome. I'm from Airbus Helicopters, where I serve as a senior expert certification. But I'm here today as leader of one of the clusters of the SAB activity group 2, dealing with digital transformation. So let's get down directly to the point. To build the digital environment of tomorrow's certification, we need to have in mind two main challenges. On one side, the global warming urgency pushes to introduce innovative technologies, requiring new regulatory requirements, new means of compliance, and possible new ways of working with more anticipation of certification activities. On the other side, the certification workload has increased. It was not as demanding when I started 20 years ago, I must say. It was not as demanding, as detailed, maybe as professional than what is today. Good or bad, I don't know, that's not the question. The complexity of our technology, the level of expectations on aviation safety or on environmental protection is leading us to do more and more. But in any case, we have a duty to better manage this increased certification workload. And we have an opportunity. It is not a joke, it is called digitalization. So all major aviation manufacturers have undertaken digital transformation of their processes toward more integration, toward full digital continuity between design, manufacturing, support, and simplifying interfaces between organizations for a better efficiency and improved competitivity. EASA is one of the organizations in the ecosystem of all manufacturers, suppliers, design and production organization. So we are all exchanging a lot of data, documents at the moment, I should say, with EASA through CEPIAC, we just saw, but also through the applicant portal or through other applications or even email. But all these exchange are not interface in most of the case, we are our own tools. So 2 years ago, it was decided to create a group under the SAB to prepare the future of digital exchange between EASA and the stakeholders. So this activity group is now benefiting from the support of a group under the Clean Aviation project, which is called Concerto. So the SAB activity group 2 is a permanent group under the SAB and connected to the activity group 5 that was presented this morning, aimed at providing inputs to EASA digitalization program and to connect with stakeholder digitalization project and possibly with other authorities. So it was divided into 4 clusters, addressing advisory bodies, regulation and certification, continued airworthiness, personal licensing. But we will focus today only on the regulation and certification cluster. So there is currently 60 participants from all sectors, manufacturers, maintenance, training industry, representing more than 35 companies. And as I said, so the cluster on regulation and certification is directly connected to the digitalization work package of Clean Aviation, which is called Concerto, as it gathers most of the participants, including Dassault Aviation, who is leading the project. So let's now get inside what activity 2 has achieved up to now and the possible next steps. So the activity group 2 has defined some key transformation objectives after a deep review of the 2 main processes dealing with rulemaking and certification, so TC and post-TC. So it included the identification of the external and internal stakeholders, their needs, their business objective, and for each step of the process, the possible changes in terms of organization, process, method, or tool. For example, on the rulemaking side, the current regulation available with e-rule could benefit from a standardized structured data format with enriched metadata, facilitating connection with standards from SDO and requirement management tools from the manufacturers. Or for certification, real-time collaboration on shared data would simplify the certification project management for both EASA and manufacturers, allowing machine-to-machine interface. So, considering 2 main constraints, as mentioned by Pierluca before, to have a scalable solution adapted to small medium, and large applicant. And considering also the compatibility with the EU legal framework in terms of digital strategy, in terms of data security, the three main objectives are now to develop standardized structured data, to enhance the collaboration and streamline the interaction, and to ensure continuity of processes. Of course, this is for everyone toward a benefit for EASA, for us, in terms of efficiency and also robustness. So as mentioned, each certification and rulemaking process was reviewed in details. So we really open all the procedure, detail the steps, identify who is doing what. And from this deep assessment, we identify more than 70 detailed change proposals that was assessed in terms of impact and efforts. And from this, we decided to launch demonstrators to de-risk some key features, and it led us to launch 4 work program items, one dealing with the architecture of this future digital framework, one dealing with certification project management, another one dealing with certification program and data, digital certification program and data, and the last one about digital regulation. So now let's get down into the high-level presentation of each work program item, starting by the architecture. So this work program item aims at evaluating the different possible architecture of this future digital framework. So considering the existing infrastructure and considering some key drivers, for instance, to maximize the digital continuity, to simplify the login, but also to ensure protection of data, the IT specialist and the certification expert started to review possible architecture and associated functionalities in order to, at the end, make a recommendation in terms of pros and cons. So currently, there are 3.5 architectures. The first one, where applicant and EASA continue to work in their system, but we connect it. Okay, so we establish API and machine-to-machine interface. It could be asynchronous or synchronous interface. So another architecture could be to put in the middle a cloud or something where both will work simultaneously. And finally, the last option could be an application only in EASA framework that is accessed by all the applicants. So maybe at the end we will end up with an hybrid architecture, but today this is what is the table. And so for these 3 architectures, so they are currently under discussion between manufacturers, and we look forward to start discussion with EASA as well soon. So next work program item deal with the digital regulation and the data exchange related to this regulation. This is one which is the most mature. So the purpose is to define a standard digital regulation data model with associated navigation and query capabilities. So the ambition is to build up on the success of e-rule and propose improvement so that we can connect requirements with interpretative material, but also with technical standards from SDOs to make it usable easily in applicant environment and facilitate cascading in requirements in our manufacturer system, create connection across regulation domain and possibly between authorities, thanks to a standardized data model, and also allow functionality such as comparison of requirements with associated rule-making data, connection to other requirements. So the environment, of course, could support the definition also. So this environment could also support the definition of the certification basis in the frame of the certification activities. So regarding certification, the next work program item, so deal with digital certification program. So today, for some of us, we are using tool to create certification program. We print a document, then we submit the document to EASA, who is commenting it. We are taking the comment, updating our tool, etc. So here the purpose is to create a real digital continuity between what we are doing and what EASA is using, starting by the certification basis, of course, when the requirement will be available. So here, two key features are proposed to be explored. On one side, the definition of the structured data model based on an ontology of a certification program, so allowing to dematerialize the existing certification program into modular structure, maybe at CDI level. It could be a possibility. And so connecting requirements management from the regulatory module or regulation part with advanced capabilities for making query or reasoning on the program. And on the other side, developing also some collaborative review, but also configuration management functionalities, allowing to comment, update, release new version of the data. So even if in some manufacturers, in some applicant environments, such functionality already exists, more or less, it does not exist today in EASA environment. So this our program item is really one of the breakthrough that will allow us to move from a document-centric world to a data-centric world. It will be a first step forward toward more model-based certification and possible use afterwards of digital assistant, facilitating even more the work of all of us. Then the last work program item is the one dealing with certification project management. So that's clearly the scope of CEPIAC and the scope of the applicant portal. Here, the purpose is to address the core difficulties in certification. So this is the coordination aspect. Okay, so today we are coordinating thousands of tasks, action, document, commenting, updating. And it is even worse when we are moving post-EC with the hundreds of post-EC projects managed in parallel, creating resource management difficulty, as we just mentioned. And so, even if a big step forward was made with CEPIAC, we are still halfway, and we can go beyond. And so here the goal is, again, to define a standard model of certification project, so from existing CEPIAC or other tool from applicant, including information such as applicability of the project, what is the DOA capability, type of project, responsible, date, connection, management of resource, obviously, management of events, of test witnessing, action, etc. And thanks to some project management template, with predefined gates, KPI, that should allow to implement agility ways of working, for instance, and follow the progress, share the data in real time, and consolidate the information for one project, for multi-project, at applicant level, per product for EASA, per expert, etc. So this standard model then could be introduced in a first step just to set up an API between CEPIAC and the manufacturer environment, and then evolve toward more sophistication. So that's where we are today. The purpose is now to finalize what we call the feasibility study. So that's the final specification of the future digital framework. The demonstrator, so real demonstrator, a real IT demonstrator for some key capabilities, to converge then on some IT solution to standardize the data, and then to build a roadmap, so as end of 2025, maybe early 2026, to come with strategic discussion on how we can move forward together towards this digital framework. So the idea is really then to commit together on the development of the overall framework based on short, mid, and long-term proposal for strong benefit for everyone, and in terms of time, in terms of cost, in terms of resource management, in terms of robustness. The last word is just a word to invite you to contribute to this activity group too. It is open to anyone who wants to step in this digitalization journey, transformation journey. You can contact me, and then we can involve you in the discussion following the SAB rules for membership. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivier. That was very interesting to follow the thread of the three presentations, what we have today, which is functioning, how we can exchange documents through CEPIAC, what is the next step for CEPIAC and the vision for the early future. And then Olivier providing a vision for what will come next. So very, very interesting presentations. So let's move to the questions. So I think that one, either Hugo or Pierluca.
I can take it? So, will EASA publish a standard describing the data structure and protocol? Well, we need to come back to the point that we need to be proportionate, transparent, and use the level playing field. This point was already discussed at the level of our executive committee. And this requires the fact that we rely upon already a well-established standard. Now, we can also mention that during our activities, we touched upon this point many times. And the answer is that there will be, of course, a moment where, when we are ready, we will endorse, we will accept a specific standard, which is, again, very much in the area of the standard of protocols for the structure of the document and for the protocol of communication. But we need to rely upon consolidated, industrially recognized standards, which does not have to stop to Europe only, because we will need also to validate products, and we need to make sure that we can cater also for our applicants from overseas.
Thank you.
So if I can say something, so currently we don't have the machine-to-machine, but we do have published in CEPIAC the XML schema that can be used to update those lists. So that is already available.
Thank you. So the next question is maybe for you, Hugo.
Mm-hmm. No, currently it's not envisioned, but if there is this need, we can bring it on board and we can propose it to management to include it on a next update that can be done to CEPIAC.
Thank you. So the next one.
This is in reality for our colleagues, Pietro Piliero there, but under his control, I can answer. That's a very good point, because the applicant expected to change the planning dates rather than revising the certification program. Well, there is first the point of making sure that we are consistent when we talk about the management of the changes. And one thing is to upload the certification program, which has started the dates of certain activities. But other thing is what already Hugo mentioned, to manage the so-called rolling wave approach. So there shall be a leader. There shall be the one that is keeping the control, keeping the baseline. So the answer is yes, of course, the planning dates can be changed based on the different contingent needs of the applicant and of EASA, which are driven by what? Well, by the availability of the resources and the possibility of the applicant to comply with the deadlines. But we need to have the control, keep the control of the baseline, because the baseline is what drives then the commitment and engagement of the resources.
I don't know, Olivier, if you want to add anything with your concept of digital third program of the future.
Yes, that's true that obviously scheduled information will be at the heart of the exchange between applicant and authority, and better connection and direct update of the information will be one of the features that needs to be implemented, obviously.
And if I may as well, it all, even with the current setup, it all depends on how your DOA procedures are organized. So you can come up with a proposal that you remove parts of what's the content of the certification program, and you have them separated, relying on the data that's on CEPIAC. So yeah. It's not only the tool; it's your procedures as well. So.
Thank you, Hugo. So I think the next point
is for me as well.
Yeah.
So no. We don't have that, so it's the responsibility of the PCM to assign persons, and in fact, CEPIAC support is not meant for that. So CEPIAC support is meant to provide IT support to the tool, not to manage users or to open projects. So, but that goes in line with the previous question, where we might take on board the upgrade of CEPIAC.
So the next question, I'm not sure in the room we have anyone who was here when CEPIAC was born. Pierluca, do you know?
I can take it. It is something that has the roots in the historical attitude of our organization. There was a moment where the digitalization strategy was very much underpinned on the development of bespoke applications to cater one-to-one with our processes. This morning, our executive director has expressed also a line that is in another direction. So, so there was a choice made at the time because we wanted to internalize our development. Now we have also adapted and we go more for commercial off the shelf. What does it mean? It means that the choice at the moment was reflecting the digitalization strategy at the moment. We do not intend to change everything, but we will adapt by avoiding to make bespoke software without using conventional features of our platform, which is SharePoint based.
Yes, in fact, CEPIAC is SharePoint, and we use basically off-the-shelf Microsoft tools. We don't go beyond that. It's not.
Thank you. Maybe Olivier, you can take the next one. The difference between data management system and document management system. Maybe Pierluca can complement.
Me? Okay.
Olivier, you want to start?
Yeah, no, but it's very simple. Document, that's what we created usually using data that are created in another environment. So where afterwards we are putting, for instance, a compliance matrix in a Word document, and so we are printing out the document and then sending the document. Whereas we could directly exchange with proper interface a compliance matrix. So moving from data, we are connecting directly the compliance matrix to EASA. This is an example, and it will save the layer to create the documents.
Thank you, Pierluca. Anything to add?
Well, I fully support what was said, and it's just a matter of, instead of exchanging documents, we exchange relational databases. So cross-reference matrices, which make the life of the machine much simpler to interpret the code and understand where you want to point. The documents have the limitations that in many cases they require the human mind, human brain to be decoded. Again, we are not talking here about digitization. So it's not talking that from paper we are going to the PDF. Digitalization requires the fact that there is a machine understandable format, but also processable format.
Yeah. And what we could add is that today we are transforming a lot of data that are created internally to make it in a form of document to exchange that. With data management system, the idea is to have more direct contact with the data itself. Obviously, it will lead to some transformation in terms of competency, because maybe people will have to know how to interact with the 3D models, to review the prescriptive requirement of the CS applicable to this fuel part, for instance. But it will also give more visibility and simplify the interaction.
Thank you. The next one is an interesting one about project management capacity. So maybe you can say a word here, and Pierluca, you can step in if necessary.
So yes, Sepiac as a SharePoint tool contains, is part of the Microsoft ecosystem, which includes project management. So one part of it is we can create tasks in Sepiac. They are not as powerful as Microsoft project management, but they serve currently our purpose because we started from nothing. So we are beginning to have a beginning of project management. And with the upgrade of Sepiac, that will have to be done because we are still running on an older version of Sepiac. We will get more of the functionalities from Microsoft tools, which we use a complete suite of Microsoft tools, so we can take advantage of that. So we don't need a specific tool. In the end, like I explained, it's an ecosystem of tools that provide us the outcome that we want.
Thank you. The next question is also very interesting. Maybe Olivier, you want to take that one because it's a bit forward-looking.
Yes, of course. This is one of the constraints. When we started to review the constraint on the architecture, obviously, record-keeping requirements of Part 21 is one of the key constraints that we need to consider. Legibility, also protection of IP is one of the topics to make sure that maybe one applicant has not access to the data of the other applicant. Definitively, these are constraints for tomorrow's digital environment, yes.
But they are taken into account in your
right.
development.
Including security, including export control, including protection of personal data, etc.
So I think the same question is redundant with the question which was already answered. Unless you want to add something about the management of the plan and the sub-program. You want to add anything to what you said before?
No, it's okay. I'm looking at the next one. And the answer to that one is, yes, the PCM will be able to see if the project is ongoing or not going, on track or not on track, because we are extracting the data. And we have, like I explained, Power BI that can really see if the project is, if our data is out of what was expected or not. But
okay. The next question is a very straight question for you, Hugo. Yes or no?
It depends what is the size of the video. I don't know. If you're going to put 1 terabyte there, the answer is no.
Okay, it depends. Interesting one. How will data management system improve efficiency?
Yes, the efficiency is really by removing layers. In the process, we have a lot of what we call transaction cost. If we take the example of safety analysis, for instance, people are building fault trees. But EASA is not consulting the fault trees. EASA is consulting the document, the FHA or the SSA, where we copy paste the fault trees. So the idea is to remove this layer of document and allow direct access to the information in a format that we need to define, but to simplify that. Really, it's removing layers in our exchange.
And I think all the benefits that Pietro presented this morning on the agility project apply as well.
As well. And having the possibility, because it's just data, we can filter it automatically for the right person at the right time with the right content. So if it's inside of a document, I have to read all of it. If it exists as data, if I'm a structural expert, it can be automatically pre-filtered to me so that I only see the data that's applicable to me.
Pierluca, anything to add?
Well, I subscribe on what the colleagues were saying, and I would also add the fact that data management implies the fact that there is automation on decision making. So this is really, and automation is something that does not require the human mind. So that's why it's by nature fast. Now, what is the pitfall of the automation? It has to be in a controlled environment first. So it adds efficiency through the means that were already said, and also by the automation, but we need to be careful in making sure that there is I mean, a management of the data in a contained environment. Again, the security was mentioned, and the clustering or the containerization of the data. But it's undoubtable, it's undeniable the fact that if well managed, this will increase the efficiency.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
The next.
obviously, we could develop digital assistant only if we move already from document to data.
Yeah.
Without this step, it will not be possible.
Okay. So the next question on digital signature. Hugo?
Well, usually digital signatures is for documents. We are talking about data, so you should have a way of saying that this data is true. So currently, we have version history enabled on SEPIAC, so we know all the time who has done what, when, and we are always able to retrieve the previous information since the beginning.
Okay. The next question, I think there is a typo, but maybe we can understand. Speaking impression of the speaking front. Okay, so I guess it's about the timeline. So maybe Pierluca, you're the forward-looking one.
Well, the answer to this question is that it's a good question. Because I said machine to machine, Ugo was making the example of the low-end machine to machine. Well, we are already there. If you want to do machine to machine with asynchronous transfer of meta file, we have the schema, you have the XML, well, we are already there. If you are asking when we will go for synchronous connection, well, this requires time, but also this requires the fact that the two partners have already agreed on protocols, on budget, and on security. So to make the long story short, I don't see this happening before a couple of years, if I have to bet on that.
Olivier, you're on the same line?
Yeah, of course. This is really what we target, to connect the system, so with different possible architecture, obviously. So the when is as soon as possible. and starting maybe by simple things. We shall not make a big revolution tomorrow. The idea is really to develop step by step, interfacing maybe the existing SEPIAC with the existing system, existing workflow, existing data model, and then building up on this and gain efficiency.
Yeah, thank you. This echoes well the incremental approach that Hugo described
Exactly, yes.
earlier. So maybe we'll take the last two questions. I don't know, I'm looking at Mario, whether you are involved or anyone on the stage on the next question about engagement with other regulators on digitalizing certification processes. Is this...
Well, I think that we can both take it because one bilateral partner, I don't know if I can say, but a bilateral partner, very prominent of EASA, has participated as observer to the AG 002 working group on a number of cases. And that was also the trigger for the fact that in our assumptions, when we made the stakeholder map and the analysis of the needs, the bilateral partners, so in this case, foreign regulators, were taken into account. And that's why, when we talk about the fact that we need to cater for the different needs, we need to make sure that what serves Europe and European applicant is also adaptable or usable by foreign applicants.
Yeah.
Thank you. Manfred, do you want to take the last one?
Yes, I would say it clearly depends. Because it's really depending on what you're going to change. The CCL, every time you do a change to the system safety management, then it's a Form 28. You have to go for a significant change. If you go in some areas where this is not affected, might not. So it's really depending. What are you going to change?
So to be discussed with your DOA team leader?
Yes, absolutely. Talk to your DOA team leader, but I don't think we are really not there. We don't have a digital CCL at the moment.
No, this will come soon, hopefully. No. So I think we're coming towards the end of this session. Thanks a lot. That was very practical, very hands-on, very interesting. Thank you to all the panelists. I don't know, Rachel, do you need a few minutes, or are you ready to close now? So thanks, everyone. And the next speaker is going to be our certification director, Rachel Deschler. Thanks a lot to the panelists. Thank you. Thank you.
So, it is my pleasure to make the concluding words of this conference. The first thing I would like to say is thank you very much to all of you for your active, very active participation and contribution. Special thanks to the speaker, but also to all of you for making the time every year, and this year over 2 full days here in Cologne, to come to see us, to exchange with us, and to actively contribute in the workshops, in the events, through the questions, etc. This is very, very important for us to touch base with you at least once per year. We have many other contacts, of course, sometimes bilateral, in projects, but for many of you, this event is the main opportunity to see us and for us to see you. So all your questions, all your inputs are very valuable source of information for us to understand where you have problems, where we have to adjust sometimes the course of action, where you need more or where you need less of EASA. Let me now try to summarize a little bit some key takeaways that I personally take from today's event. And first of all, under working together, the first thing to say is, and this is closing the loop with what Florian said this morning, we as EASA, we want to continue putting safety in the first place. To maintain the level of safety we think we are able to ensure on product safety especially. And we want to continue protecting the level of technical quality of the work we are doing. But we also realize that we need to step up in terms of quality of service that we provide to you. This is what I was discussing this morning, and it comes back several times in our conversations. Level of service has to do with predictability. It is fair for you to expect a reasonable level of predictability from EASA as to what kind of schedule we can accommodate. It has to do with proportionality and also with responsiveness in general. So we are committed to work on that. We cannot work on that in isolation. We need you. We need you to provide feedback to us, not to work in isolation on your project with the team you have in front of us if there are problems. We need to ensure that you have adequate communication lines with EASA. So if you have issues and if you don't know who to talk to, you really should be able to find out through all the contacts you have. And if really nothing else, you can always come back to me. So another aspect of working together, I think, is representation of industry and which forums you have to influence our work. So we had a presentation on the AG005 this morning. That's an important place where we have direct discussion with industry, but it's not a fully representative industry group, obviously. So we have our consultation systems, which are working well, but we need also the bilateral exchange with you, or we need to get in touch with other associations, and we are very open to that. Maybe a few words about regulations, policy developments, and the way we are working together on this subject. I think I have taken note of the many inputs we received, in particular from the Part 21 workshops from yesterday. And it is a very rich set of inputs on the various topics, DOA suppliers, competence management, cybersecurity. So we will go back through all of that and see what we can take into our work program for next year and how we can accommodate the various needs that were expressed. On rulemaking, I also really acknowledged the worries that are present in the room and in some other aviation communities regarding implementation of Part IS. We are in the final phase of SMS implementation. We still have a few months to go until the compliance deadline. And we can see that the ISMS deadline is really not far behind. And I fully realize that this is presenting a major, major challenge for many of you. So we are also going to take that back and work on how we can best facilitate and support you in the remaining months to compliance. There are a number of actions undertaken, also on the policy side. So today, I just want to say that this worry is very acknowledged. A short word on the international cooperation. We had a short presentation on that this morning. Just to restate that our strategy, when it comes to working with our regulatory partners, is focused on two main objectives. One is how can we reduce the validation effort? And both ways, obviously, in a symmetric way. This is not always possible, but there are areas for low-risk products or for regulatory compliance areas which are well understood by both parties, where it is certainly possible to further reduce the validation effort. And I can see the trend in all the bilateral agreements when we revise them, that we are going towards more automatic acceptance and reduced LOI on those projects that we keep. The other strategic priority with our regulatory partners is harmonization, which is also difficult, and we will never achieve 100% harmonization, but we need to find where are the critical areas which are dimensioning for industry, where we should and we can invest resources into harmonization work. So this is all the landscape of working groups that we have with our partners, where we work on the future hydrogen requirements, but also on harmonizing electric hybrid propulsion system requirements and more. And I think there is room for doing more and going further for larger plane requirements, for engine requirements, and more. So these are really the two strategic orientations on validation. This afternoon we talked about digitalization, and in the first part, digitalization happening in industry, all the innovation work going on. It's really a very vast domain. And I think one of the key message that was passed was that digitalization of the design, but also manufacturing and maintenance, but of the design processes, certification by simulation and modeling, even use of AI in design processes maybe in the future, are key enablers for accelerating the development life cycle of new aircraft. And only for that, only that is a strong enough reason for us to really invest in, from EASA side, in enabling as much as possible. And enabling means typically for us removing regulatory barriers when they are, if they are, and putting in place the modified regulatory framework that is needed. And there was a lot of talk about new words now that enter our vocabulary, such as trustworthiness, and I discovered a new one today, which is credibility, how did you say? Credibility framework, yeah. So I think we have a strong role here in supporting you in innovation-related digitalization journey. And this is closing the loop with our theme of last year, which was sustainability. What can we do to accelerate the development of green technology? And then, yes, the last part was about certification, of digitalization of certification and CEPIAC and the future vision of our certification tools, frameworks, and data models. This is a very ambitious long-term vision. It's important that when we evolve on this path, we keep everybody on board and that whatever solutions we develop, they are really adequate, suitable, and interoperable with the whole industry. In the meantime, we continue to upgrade CEPIAC little by little. Yes, this is also closing the loop with how can we better work together with you. One key element of that is planning when it comes to project. If we start at the beginning of a project on negotiating and agreeing on a common planning, I hope that this should help also in the predictability you deserve to have from us. So that covers more or less the takeaways, and I'm sorry for having forgotten many of the important messages of today. Last but not least, I would like to thank the EASA team, which is behind the event. So I'm kindly ask them, all of them who are part of the organization and speakers, to stand up just a few seconds so that we can give them an applause. Again, thank you very much for being here with us today, and I wish you a nice evening. I hope you are able to travel back in good conditions, and that's it. Thanks. See you next year.